The company was founded in 1979 in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Walton is a family business. The company was founded by my late father and my mother. It's still a private business controlled by the family. I'm a part, obviously, of the second generation. What we do at Walton is that we're in the land business. Very simply, we buy land in the path of development. From our humble beginnings of a 14-acre parcel on the west side of the city of Calgary, Walton now controls and owns over 90,000 acres of land in both Canada and the United States. 87% of those assets are located throughout the southern smile of the United States. And as a part of our history, Walton moved its global headquarters from Calgary, Alberta, down to Scottsdale, Arizona in January of 2020. We have many key performance indicators that help us to guide our business each and every single day. One of those key performance indicators are the number of clients that we have globally. We have over 95,000 individual clients. And at Walton, we state and we train and we teach each other that is the greatest asset that we have at the Walton Group. Going into COVID, which was about 90 to 120 days later, the impact in the United States that was felt here in Taiwan and throughout all of Asia, for about 6 weeks, the residential home market came to a grinding halt from about mid-March until the end of April, while everybody was trying to feel out what was really going on with this marketplace. And literally, within about 6 weeks after the United States, people start to work from home remotely, the country was shut down for that period of time, the home building market just took off. And in fact, it was a market like I personally have never seen in my 30 years of being involved in real estate. And the reason for that is that people who live in apartments or flats and they didn't have to go to work every single day and they could work remotely, they now took it as an opportunity to go out and buy homes out in the suburbs, further away from their place of work, so that they could have a front yard, they could have a backyard, a side yard, a place for their kids to play. And it got people into the housing market. When you couple that with the low cost of capital, because interest rates, not just in the United States, but globally, plummeted. And they were very low. In fact, the lowest we have seen in the history of lending for homes in the United States. That just accelerated the people entering the home buying marketplace throughout the United States and put a tremendous strain on home builders, which was, they welcome that. They welcome that opportunity to go out and even build more houses to get it out into the marketplace itself. So you had tremendous growth over those 2 to 3 years. And that has continued. That has continued to happen in the United States, even with the higher interest rate marketplace that we're experiencing right now. Back in March of 22, the federal bank started increasing rates in order to combat inflation. That is the one tool that the Fed has in order to deal with inflation, and they were very aggressive right out of the gate. And so they have increased the federal rate by over 500 basis points in the last 18 months. Of course, that impacts the cost of capital of what we borrow from the banks. And this has affected businesses quite a bit because their cost of capital goes up, their ability to run their business, deliver goods and services, so on and so forth. But business has been able, for the most part, to manage through this process. And unemployment rate has stayed relatively very low in the United States, and the economy has continued to expand during that time. And the Fed set out to have an economic soft landing. And I must admit to you that 9 months ago, I didn't think the Fed was going to accomplish what they set out to do, and that was to have an economic soft landing. Heck, I didn't even think that 6 months ago. Today, I believe they're going to do it. And forget what I think. A lot of economists in the United States also believe that the United States will not go into a recession in the next 6 months. And as well, most of them believe that the economy is going to continue to expand throughout 2024. And so you have to give it to the Federal Reserve. They set out to accomplish a soft landing, and it looks like they're going to do it. Now, how has this impacted housing? Well, it had a major impact on housing. Literally, from March of 2022 until June of 2022, for the most part, right across the United States, as mortgage rates start to increase, for home builders, you had increased cancellations, and for the general marketplace, you had a number of people backing out of the market because they didn't like the increase in the cost of capital. And most people didn't understand how long this increase would be in place. They didn't know if this would be short term or if this was going to be for the long term. And then when you go from March of 2022 all the way to December, the market totally flipped in terms of a very strong market in most of the major markets in the United States in March of 2022 to only 20% of the markets were normal across the United States. And so that means most of the markets were not normal and they were underperforming at that point in time in just 9 months. And so your average borrowing rate went from about 4% in March of 2022 to about 6.35% in December of 2022. But something happened along the way. The builders adapted. The builders have been here before when the market has stepped away, so they started creating incentives. They also started discounting the pricing of their housing. They also did what's called buying down a person's mortgage. So if you come in to buy a house, we'll pay down your mortgage for the first 2 years to something that you can afford. And why did they do that? Well, if you believe that mortgage rates are going to come down in the next 24 months, then you're taking a risk that you're going to be able to refinance your house at that point in time, okay? So where are we from December of 2022 to where we are today? Well, mortgage rates have continued to increase. They've gone from about 6.35% to about 7.25 to 7.3%. They've actually gone up, but the market has come back in and has started buying houses again. Why is that? Very simply, there's such a great demand for residential housing in the United States. There is a deficit of housing, estimated deficit of 6.5 million residential units. That's a very good question. I believe, first and foremost, we deal in an asset class that most real estate companies don't deal in. And that's the opportunity to invest directly in land. There's the four main real estate asset classes. Land, because everything begins with land. You have horizontal development, you have vertical development, and of course you have completed properties, houses, office buildings, like we're sitting in now. The fourth stage of the real estate life cycle is the business all of us are in. We either own it, we rent it, we lease it, whatever the case may be. It's the most liquid and most efficient part of the real estate life cycle. And as you move from built up properties to vertical development to horizontal development to land, it becomes less efficient, right? And less liquid. And so Walton, we operate in the least efficient and least liquid part of the real estate life cycle. And you probably think, well, why would you do that? Well, there's not too much competition there. And we're going in there with large sums of money, buying up large tracts of land, and we're creating efficiencies. How do we create efficiencies? We do that by getting the appropriate zoning, engineering, and planning in place. And we've done this over 45 years. across Canada and the United States. So we've done it through trial and error, experience, ups and downs. We have the experience to work properties to a point where they're ready to be developed. We also have the relationships in place in Canada and throughout the United States to come in, those developers and builders to come in and develop and build on these properties to create and generate cash flow, therefore creating efficiencies and creating liquidity. And so the opportunity with Walton is very unique. I don't know of many other real estate companies that offer an investment in land. And we do, and we do it around the globe. And in fact, we've been doing it in East Asia since 1992, and we've been doing it very successfully. The focus of what we do is land. And we have two primary structures within our land structured business. The first structured products that we offered is what's called exit-focused pre-development land. And this is land, again, that's in the path of development that we go out and we research and we choose the assets. And as we choose the assets, we bring a third-party builder in to take a look at these assets with us. Now, these assets are a little bit further out. These assets are about 3+ years away from being developed. Typically, these assets have little to no entitlements in place and therefore have a little bit more risk. But with a little bit more risk, it has a little bit more return. And when we acquire these assets, we bring a builder in with us in order for them to be focused on getting the approvals, the zoning approvals in place, and to help us exit those lands within about a 3-year time period, and then taking the assets down phase by phase. That is the cornerstone of what Walton does. About 2 years ago, our largest client in the United States, they're a Fortune 120 company in the United States, the single largest home building company. They build and sell over 80,000 single family homes each and every single year. And we have in the aggregate about $1 billion relationship deals that we've done with them right across the country, feeding them land. They came to us about 2 years ago and they asked us if we would help finance the acquisition of properties, but properties that they chose, properties they researched, properties they were bringing to us. And we worked out the terms of how this would work. And then Walton went ahead and we acquired about, I'm going to say 5 or 6 properties for about $40 million just to see if it would work. And it did work. It worked very well. And most of those projects have gone full cycle. We've been paid back all the principal and all the interest that we expected to earn. And then we went out and we were able to broker a deal, a relationship with a group called Fortress. And Fortress has tens of billions of dollars in assets under management, and they provide capital to companies like us that want to expand their business. And so Fortress provided us a facility for $100 million US that we put into this program. Is called Builder Land Finance. That's our our number 2 land structured products that we offer at Walton. We've placed that full $100 million, and in fact, Fortress has re-upped for another $100 million, and we're going to be placing that capital over the next 3 to 6 months. A little bit less risk. The entitlements the zoning's already in place, and what this does is it produces cash flow for our investor group immediately.